That was Barbara Starr reporting. In tonight's Tax Insider, congressional vacations, coal, and the F-35 program. It's August recess, a 5-week period of relative calm on Capitol Hill when most lawmakers return to their home districts. Some members of Congress, however, travel abroad, and those trips can get expensive. For details on the cost, we're joined by Steve Ellis, Vice President of the Nonpartisan Taxpayers for Common Sense. Steve, thanks for being here.
Thanks a lot, Mike, for having me.
What do we know about these trips lawmakers take during August recess? Where do they go and who pays for them?
Well, they can go to a wide variety of places. In past years, they've gone to the Paris Air Show. This year, often there are people, lawmakers going to Israel or Ukraine, and they can either be paid for by the taxpayer in many cases, or sometimes there'll be charitable foundations that'll foot the bill.
Generally speaking, do these trips serve a purpose? Do they raise ethical concerns?
Well, I mean, certainly we want our lawmakers to be educated about the world and to understand better about how we fit into the world and understand that. So there's definitely a role. Some of these, though, if there's more about shopping and about spouses travel, you know, there's some concerns about whether this is really achieving those goals. And then also on the ethical side, you know, when some of these charitable foundations are paying for it, they obviously have some sort of agenda, something they want the lawmakers to see or to hear, and you have to guard against that as well.
Are there guidelines from House leaders or Senate leaders about what trips are worthy?
Well, there's not really, no, generally it's the chairman of a committee that actually makes the decision about where to go, and then other lawmakers join that particular trip. Now, they got rid of some of the privately funded ones after some of the scandals with Jack Abramoff back in the mid-2000s, where people went golfing in St. Andrews in Scotland and some of these other abuses. So there's certain regulations in it. It's supposed to be disclosed, but it's not very well disclosed. You have to really kind of track the information down.
Let's move on. You're also tracking the rising cost of DOD's F-35 program. Those lawmakers will return next month and try to hash out a budget. How does the F-35 factor in?
Well, this program is the largest weapons system acquisition in the history of the Pentagon, which is saying something. I mean, it really is the plane that ate the Pentagon's budget. According to the Government Accountability Office, which is the investigative arm of Congress, it'll be about $1 trillion in sustainment costs for this one particular program over the next 40 years. That's a huge amount of money. And we're going to be devoting about $8 billion and eventually ramping up to $15 billion per year in acquisition for the F-35. This is a very costly program.
Long term, the F-35 might not be affordable, but what is the alternative? The U.S. can't just scrap a $1 trillion program, can it?
We certainly hope they will. You know, we even did a report, which is available on our website, www.taxpayer.net, called the Unaffordable F-35, where we look at what are the replacement options, you know, buying more of the current very capable aircraft like the F-A-18, the F-15, the F-16s, that we could actually replace some of those needs and actually do it at a much more affordable scale, particularly knowing that in the next 40 years, we're really not going to be looking at manned aircraft fighting dogfights. We're really going to be looking at unmanned aerial vehicles in the next coming decades.
Before you go, let's talk about coal. Congress might be on vacation, but Taxpayers for Common Sense is not. You're traveling across the country talking about coal that's mined from federal lands. Why is that a concern for taxpayers?
Well, this is taxpayer assets. We all own this coal that the federal government is then giving leases and allowed people to extract these from the public lands. And just to put it in perspective, one estimate that's come out has been that over the last 30 years, mismanagement of this program and not getting the most has cost taxpayers about $30 billion, almost $30 billion. So this is significant money, and essentially the program has been mismanaged where they had a lot of single bids for the leases. They've allowed the companies to structure the tracks that they're going to be looking at to try to push down the cost. And we're not actually charging enough for this coal, so that means that our royalties and what we're getting paid is really de minimis, or not nearly as much as it should be.
Steve Ellis with Taxpayers for Common Sense. Steve, thank you.
Thank you.